For the video retake, I want to start reviewing why the absolute value equations have two solutions, most of the time, not always, by looking at a few of these quick examples. So once again, if I have the absolute value of some number is equal to 8, that means a couple examples would be a equals 8, because the absolute value of 8 is still 8. But also, a could be negative 8, because the absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8, and therefore we have these two possibilities. If we look at the problem on the right, this is another example when there is only one answer, because y can be 0 or y can be negative 0. The problem is negative 0 is not a thing. Therefore, there is only one answer to this problem. If I look down here on the left, this is an example where we have the absolute value of something equals negative 2. And if we remember from the last video, the absolute value of positive 2 is positive 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is also positive 2. So there is no value for c. One of the ways that you can write that is by doing a 0 with a slash through it, which means there is no value for c. And the final problem is we have x plus 4 equals 6. So we have to solve our equation a little bit to get the answer here. Well, I know that 6, the absolute value of 6 is equal to positive 6. So x would have to be 2 in that case. But I also know that the absolute value of negative 6 is equal to positive 6. So in that case, x would have to be negative 10, because negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6, and then absolute value gives us our answer. So that's why we will almost always need two solutions to set up these problems. For the first problem, before we do anything else, we need to remove anything from the absolute value side except the absolute value itself. So in this problem, that means we need to remove the negative 4 by dividing both sides of our equation by negative 4. I then get the absolute value of 5x minus 1 is equal to positive 2. And we had to be careful here, because if this ends up being a negative, we know that the problem doesn't work. But in this case, negative divided by a negative gave us a positive. And now that our problem will work, we have to do step 2, which is set up our positive and negative solutions. I'll just speed up here a little bit, because I'm really hoping you've already written those steps down. So for our positive solution on this side, we are going to do 5x minus 1 equals positive 2. And for our negative solution, excuse me, on the right side, I'm going to do 5x minus 1 equals negative 2. And now let's solve. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides over here, and I will get 5x equals 3. I divide everything by 5 to get x is equal to 3/5. And if you notice from the last video, we had a lot of fraction answers to these problems. This is a good time when there's just going to be a lot of fraction answers for absolute value problems. It's hard to avoid them. For this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add 1 to both sides. I get 5x equals negative 1. I divide everything by 5 to get x is equal to negative 1/5. So my answer is x can be 3/5 or negative 1/5. Both would make this a true equation. And that's absolute value equations. Let's do one more example that this is about as hard as these problems can get. So once again, step 1 is remove anything from the absolute value side that we possibly can. So our first step here is we have this positive 4 out front. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of our equation. People really mix this one up and add 4 to both sides because they see that negative behind. Always be looking at the number in front. So I get negative 3 parentheses 2x minus 8. Sorry, not parentheses, absolute value bars equals negative 12. Now I can remove the negative 3 by dividing everything by negative 3. So I get the absolute value of 2x minus 8 is equal to positive 4. And now I can do step 2, which is to set up the positive and negative solutions. Run out of room. There we go. Okay, so the positive solution is going to be 2x minus 8 equals positive 4. The negative solution is going to be 2x minus 8 equals negative 4. To solve these, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I get 2x equals 12. So x is equal to positive 6 for the first solution. On this one, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And I get 2x equals positive 4. So x is equal to positive 2. It can be either of these two answers. And that is solving absolute value equations. If at any point you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, the problem should be set up on the choice board.